The President of India and the ministers will soon be delivering their speeches only in Hindi. The rule comes into force as President Pranab Mukherjee has accepted the 9th report of the Committee of Parliament on Official Language. The 9th report had made 117 recommendations on the ways in which Hindi could be made more popular across the country. Now, this would be a sharp departure, of course, from norms where most speeches by the President have been given in English, accompanied on occasions by Hindi translation. So what are the implications of this move? Will it actually help in the popularity of Hindi, or would this backfire in a country where only 40% of the population uses Hindi and its dialects? That's our debate today. Professor Rajveer, one of the comments I read on this story is that, the government is trying, or perhaps in the next few years, we will see the importance of vernacular languages actually decreasing further and further. And this also, in a way, if I'm reading it out correctly, it's also methodology where only Hindi belt politicians can now aspire to be a prime minister or be a central minister. Do you agree with that? Do you think that this puts a pressure on even, aspiring bureaucrats for that matter? Because, a lot of them coming from the northeast and even southern India, and even for that matter, some parts of western India as well, the need to be able to speak in Hindi, is that going to become an issue in years to come?
No, I think let us be very clear on two counts.
Yes.
One, whatever has been accepted in the report, it is not an imposition, it is not a compulsion, it is not mandatory. And this is number one. So therefore, no question of imposing Hindi on anyone. Number two, there is a constitutional responsibility. Constitution has established an official language commission. Constitution also provides for Rajbhasha kind of a department. And we have a parliamentary panel on official language. What is the objective of all these institutional arrangements? Objective was that slowly and slowly we should popularize the use of Hindi. Objective was that we should incentivize or motivate people to use Hindi. This is number two. And therefore, we must work at least slowly maybe towards that direction so that we are able to fulfill the constitutional objectives. Number three, if one speaks in Hindi and it is translated into English, I think even now, the President, suppose, speaks in Hindi, he doesn't speak in the language of the Northeast, he doesn't speak in the language of South India.
But then it's a,
no,
English is...
Let us be very clear.
Yes.
So, if he doesn't speak the vernacular languages, other vernacular languages,
why should there be a problem with Hindi?
So, therefore, what we do is that we first speak in English and then we translate into Hindi. Now it can be the other way around, that we speak in Hindi and then we translate it into English. So the problem doesn't arise for those who don't understand Hindi. They will understand English. The translation will come. So I think it's a very naive and irrelevant kind of a issue that we are raising, that it is an attempt to impose perhaps Hindi.
But the thing is, merely but the thing is, it's not just to do with the speeches, isn't it, Ganpati? It's not just to do with the speeches. You also have these other recommendations that have come in, although we are trying to focus, of course, on the
other recommendations have not been accepted yet.
Yes, which is exactly why we are saying
and Air India even more non-competitive.
Let me
tickets in Hindi, the newspapers and all of that in Hindi.
But that will also be in English as well. It is not merely in Hindi. The tickets would be both in Hindi as well as English. Presently, it is only English. And even if 40% is a big number. And therefore, at least those who don't understand English, they should get things in Hindi, number one.
Yes.
Number two, I will submit very humbly that India is a country where perhaps maybe Tamil Nadu, barring that state, every state understands Hindi. May not be able to speak Hindi, but even the northeastern states, you might have seen many people speak Hindi.
Yes, yes.
And they also understand Hindi. Now, if they understand Hindi, it can be an incentive, it can be a motivation for them to understand and practice Hindi. And I think it would be a step in the right direction to create a sense of oneness across the nation, right? It may not be an imposition. By imposition, you cannot achieve the objective of oneness.
Yes.
But if it is slow effort,
yes,
to incentivize people, to motivate people to use Hindi, understand Hindi, I think it would be a welcome step.
Also, if there is not a pressure
conclusion
on ministers
is
who don't speak
that
in Hindi
country-
to actually give their speeches in Hindi, isn't it, Ganapati? You know, although right now it is, you know, it has been stated that only those who are comfortable, who can speak Hindi, it will be mandatory for them to speak in Hindi, as in do those speeches in Hindi. You know, but like we said, there shouldn't be any pressure on, let's say, you know, a minister perhaps from the northeast or from southern India, as been pointed out, you know, to speak in Hindi. That pressure shouldn't be there. Do you think?
Right. The minister concerned was mentioned just now, Chidambaram. If you see him in parliament, he is comfortable speaking in English
Yes.
and happy with a couple of Tamil couplets here and there in his budget speeches, etc. Of course, he knows Hindi, he can understand Hindi, he can speak Hindi. But left to himself, he is very comfortable speaking in Hindi. He can put his message through more
In English, you mean?
yeah,
Yes, in English.
sorry, in English, more comfortably and with whatever elegance and whatever sense he wants to add. So that should not be snatched away. These things, okay, when anything is forced upon people, it naturally results in a lot of resistance. If it is made optional and slowly developed further, it's okay, fine, that's not a problem. But when people are told that the president will speak in Hindi, prime minister will speak in Hindi, and you will have to watch it, if the prime minister and president are speaking about something addressed to a nation on something happening in Bengal,
Yes.
or something happening in Assam or Kerala, it's rather better to use a different language, English language, which is probably understood better in those areas. Anyway, prime minister speaks most of the time in Hindi,
Yes.
that's okay.
Yes.
But even then he tries to use the local language, a few words here
Yes.
and there when he wants to go to. So therefore there should be no compulsion. It's committee has decided, president has accepted, fine, but it can always be reconsidered.
Okay. Do you agree, Mr. Mudgal? You know, at least coming from the northeast, I can say that sense of alienation that we have with the central government. We feel like they ignore us completely all the time. And now with these speeches coming in from there in Hindi as well, do you think this is going to add to that sense of alienation, or do you think we're just making too much out of this particular move?
I think it's not a very big issue. I think it's good for a committee to make a recommendation, and it's good for the President of India to accept it.
Yes.
But I don't think it's going to make any big difference. It will be business as usual.
Yes.
You see, I tell you, when it comes to languages in India, it becomes much more complicated issue than anywhere else in the world. You know, you have Germany. The nationality of the people is German,
Yes.
and their language is also German.
Yes.
You know, French people, and there's a language called French.
Yes.
You know, it's quite simple.
Yeah,
But
China,
Hindi,
Chinese.
India,
Yeah,
So
exactly.
Chinese, still you have the Cantonese and Mandarin.
Yes.
But you know, in India, you have like huge amount of, a large number of languages, and you can't yet say that we are a Hindu Rashtra and our language is Hindi. And I hope we will not be that kind of a country, because we are a multicultural, multilingual country.
Yes.
Now, as a Hindi speaker, I like Hindi to flourish.
Yes.
Like I want all other Indian languages which happen to be anyway the first cousins of my language, Hindi.